From oversaturated but dying of thirst, thinking what's yours forever is borrowed, and vice versa. Having so much present, not enough presence. 2. Treating a wonder as a wonder, knowing a brilliance from a blunder, letting your precious eyes rest.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Solacene. This is the final episode of our internet semester. Today we are going to be designing a Solacene social media and also talking about our takeaways from this semester. And it sounds like your poem has something to do with your takeaway, Aaron.
Yes. I was inspired because last night I had some nightmares. Did you know about that? Or?
Yeah, because I sneezed and you yelled at me very aggressively.
Here's the thing. I say some because there were two very prominent nightmares. The first one, very typical subject, spiders.
Yes.
Spiders crawling all around me. Every time I felt a little touch on my foot or knee, it was a spider. And they had very big eyes and they were very hairy and they had a lot of legs and they were crawling all around me. And the second one was more grotesque, maybe even too grotesque to share on the podcast, involving snakes and people's stomachs. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But I was just thinking about this, like my dreams are very vivid images.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, I know the subconscious has a lot of power to create these images. But also, I think I've never really seen a big spider in my life.
It's true.
I've been to zoos, sometimes they have tarantulas, but never anything bigger than that. So where are these images coming from?
Perhaps from Harry Potter.
Yeah, exactly. From Harry Potter, from Google Images, maybe someone playing a prank on me, something like this when I was young, which scarred me for life. I was also thinking about, I don't know if you were allowed on the internet during this time. I wasn't really, but when I was probably 9, maybe, so 2009, around there, 2008, 2009, my older sister was playing some YouTube video in our computer room, and I was always like watching over her shoulder because I was curious about screens and the internet. And it was one of those ones where it was like, I think it was a game where you had to try and navigate through a maze with the mouse without touching the sides. Mm-hmm. But then because you were focusing so closely, like a screen would pop up with an ugly witch face. Mm-hmm. Did you know about these?
Yeah, I knew about them. I never experienced them because, I was...
Well, you can imagine what it did to a young Aaron.
I can imagine.
So my poem is basically about the subject of images and the internet, and it's saying from these three things. And the first one is oversaturated but dying of thirst, which kind of means I think we're all addicted but not realizing it, or in denial, let's say. And the second one, thinking what's yours forever is borrowed, and vice versa. And what I was thinking about this was how we talk about when we learn things on the internet, when we read things, when we try and be productive or like improve ourselves, our education, facts, let's say, we often don't remember them because of this inverse principle, maybe where the easier something is to find, the less we remember it, or the easier something is to learn, the less we remember it. But with images, I don't really think they abide by the same rule. I think you can see it once in passing, even inadvertently, and have it stick in you. Yeah. So I was thinking about, like, even if you are trying to follow the news, sometimes you'll be subject to violent images that you don't want to be. Mm-hmm. Or you think about a lot of ads. Obviously, we don't really choose those. We don't opt into those, but we're subject to them. And sometimes they can be quite pornographic, let's say. Like sometimes they can be really inappropriate on the internet. So I think there is, in the Solacene, on one hand, we need to kind of strengthen ourselves and have better mechanisms for dealing with image reception, let's say. Like we need to be kind of steeled in that regard. But also we need to be just this acknowledgement that the internet is a minefield and we can't control it. And what do you do with minefields? You don't go on them frequently. Like you try to minimize your time on them. Yeah,
I think that's a really great analogy.
And then the third thing, having so much present, not enough presence. I was saying at the start of the semester, like I would always repeat, too much content, but nobody's content. Yeah. I like these kind of kitschy, like, put it on your license plate or put it on your bumper sticker or on the classroom wall posters. Yeah. I think those are fun. I would have that on a t-shirt. Yeah. And what I was thinking about this was A Christmas Carol. You know how in the second part of A Christmas Carol, The Ghost of Christmas Present, Scrooge gets to go see what's Cratchit doing? What's his nephew doing? Spoiler for those of you who haven't seen or read A Christmas Carol. It's kind of old now. And that's such a wondrous moment. He's flying through the air and he gets to see all these things, even though he's kind of in his bedroom. And that's treated like this crazy fantasy, because it's a fantasy book. But we do that all the time without thinking about it. And we do it with more than just 2 or 3 families. We can see thousands, definitely hundreds of thousands of people's lives in the instant from our own bedroom or living room. And is why I say not enough presence, because we have all these different presents, like people's presents, TS, we're not very mindful about our initial surroundings. And that's why it says, like, those were the froms, so the current state, and then the Solacene version, treating a wonder as a wonder, which means, like, giving that the respect that it deserves. You know what I mean? That's why I say, like, treating it as a minefield, but also, like, this is an amazing thing. Let's not commit to it too lightly, basically. Like, this is a wondrous thing. Knowing a brilliance from a blunder, which is kind of chess terminology, but it just means, like, having that discernment that our generation doesn't really have, I don't think, because we are, as I say in the internet zine, lab rats. So I think it's ironic, because we've talked in this semester about science having to catch up to what's very obvious. You know, like scientific studies are very behind what I think is quite clearly the effects of different digital or internet interactions.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's what I mean, like, we'll know these things, like we'll have that education. And then the final one, letting your precious eyes rest, just because I really think the holy grail to bring things full circle for the internet semester is having the bright eyes.
Yes.
So having, maybe we can call them the Solacene eyes.
Okay.
It just means, like, those people that you see who have really bright and present eyes.
Yeah.
And I think it might be as simple an equation as good sleep, screenlessness, and mindfulness, like being in the present.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
I think increasingly it is challenging to even see things. Like, screens affect our literal sight. Like, it makes you more nearsighted.
Yeah.
But I find when you spend an hour or 2 on a screen and then go for a walk, it's almost as if you do not see anything. Like, obviously you can see because, like, you're not bumping into things, but it takes a certain amount of awareness to choose to take in your surroundings.
Yeah, well, remember those optical illusions? There's digital ones, but there's also books where it's like you stare at this square for a minute and then look at the blank wall and you see Christ. I think maybe there's something
like
in that.
Yeah. So for the Solacene social media app, we wanted to make it geographic. And right before we recorded, Aaron and I were talking a bit about it and saying, wait a second, any kind of social media app is probably not the most Solacene thing.
Well, the thing is, we've referenced this a lot during the semester, but we never went into detail, so we thought that would be a fun way to close it out.
Yeah.
And we talked during our ecosystem episode about having a personal device on you all the time, but having it be very different from the device that we have on you now, and more in service to creating real-life interactions. So we thought there could be some kind of social media or Nintendo 3DS-esque Street Pass system to foster human connection.
Yeah, so do you want to hear what my plan was for it, and then you can either debunk it or tweak it?
Yes.
Okay, so my app, I'm picturing it as a Bumble, X Reddit, X Facebook events, X Facebook Marketplace. So that's basically to say, Bumble is a dating app, but also a friendship app. I mean, I think there's probably like 3 people who use it as friendship, and we are 2 of them. Yeah. But it's an app where you make a profile, you have pictures, you have likes, dislikes, and then you can filter by other people's interests. So it's like maybe you want to find a friend who doesn't drink, and you like put that as a filter, and then you find them, and then you meet up and hang out and see if it works. The thing with Reddit, the reason I put that in there is obviously that's one of the darkest places on the internet, yet it's the most like raw. There's no advertisements, and it's a really good way of pooling for information. So I'm picturing the app having that kind of message board, like a community board situation.
Yeah, I mean, there are subreddits for most cities and big towns. There's a Montreal subreddit, for instance.
Yeah, so Bumble, which is like a localized dating or friendship app, and then Reddit, which you can have those kind of forums. It's like a community bulletin situation. And then the Facebook events is like one of my favorite parts of online because you can kind of see things that are going on in your immediate area. And then, of course, Facebook Marketplace, there would just be a situation on this app where you can trade things, kind of like a buns, I should say.
Okay.
So there's all that. And then the literal design of it is going to be a dark screen. Like, it's not going to be bright.
A dark screen that you access through your portable device.
I was picturing it, you access it at home.
Okay.
And here's how you make the connections with people. Is say you go to an event. You're not thinking about this app while you're at the event. You're just at the movies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can go home and you can, I mean, Facebook has this, I think, or at least used to. You log that you were there. So this is also partly inspired by us going to the cinema and seeing someone on Letterboxd.
Yeah, that was exactly it. It was a week and a half ago. We went to see Asteroid City, and it was kind of like the first showing of it at the Montreal Theatre, so we were really excited. And the thing with such a specialized event like that is obviously everyone else there is really excited for it, else they wouldn't have gone to the first showing. So it's like we know everyone there also kind of likes Wes Anderson movies or likes new movies.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we were there like 20 minutes early, and there was just a black screen and people were just talking as everyone filled in. And exactly, there was someone a row ahead of us. Like,
Yeah.
I could have probably reached out and touched them on Letterboxd, and I was like, Alicia, look, I'm on Letterboxd too, and so are they.
Yeah. So Letterboxd is like a movie social media where you log the movies you watch and you review them.
Yeah.
And it is pretty niche, I think.
Yeah, well, here's what's really interesting. Like, you can tag your reviews on Letterboxd, or just when you log a film. So like, I logged that film Asteroid City and put my review, and I don't do this, but you can tag where you watched it. So people can tag Netflix, or you can tag Cinema du Parc, which is where we went to see it. So if you click on that tag, you can see all the people who have tagged from that.
Yeah. But there's no way to message them.
Yeah, exactly.
So with this app, it would be exactly like that. You tag, I went to the movies here, and then, oh, I wonder who else was there. And you can look, and maybe you can message someone and say, hey, do you want to talk about, even just like talking about the movie, what did you think of the movie? And then perhaps create a friendship that way. And I was thinking with this kind of not being at the event, because the original idea for the app was like you walk into the room and you're kind of pinged by like who else is there.
Yeah.
And then I think that would make you look at your phone too much or your device. So I'm thinking if you do it afterwards, because really in the moment, this is so indoor kid, but how socializing works, I feel like, is it's perhaps the first couple people you run into when you get there is who you talk to, or you just don't talk to anyone because you're socially awkward like some of us.
Thanks.
And no, myself included. I'll just like isolate myself. But then you're like, oh, there was this person there who was really cool. And I wish
How do you know?
Because you were in the event.
Oh, because you spoke to them.
You spoke to them, yeah. Or perhaps you just saw them and you're like, oh, they're like a cool looking person. Maybe I want to message them. And then you can do this through the app. And another aspect of the app is that there's a limit of 15 minutes per day.
Yeah, I was thinking about something like that.
Or even less, I don't know. Because then it's like, oh, you went to the event, you just log it and then you get off, sort of thing. It's not for entertainment, it's more like a tool for facilitating social connection.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to be perfect. I mean, you could also do it, oh, I went for a run up the mountain this morning. And then you log that. And then maybe you can see someone else who logged it. You're like, oh, I passed them. Maybe we should run together. Or
so it just compiles every person in the city, in the immediate vicinity?
yeah, and like whoever wants to log their information.
But what if it's someone from like Nicaragua? Or it has to be local?
It has to be local.
So within a 2-mile radius or something?
Yeah.
Did you have a name for it?
No.
Obviously, I had a name for it despite not having an actual idea for the app. And the name is Radar.
Radar. Cool.
Which stands for randoms around definitely aren't random.
Okay. Cool.
There's something to that.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that random, or rando, as some of us like to say, has become a very common noun to describe other people. And I don't like it. It seems very un-Solacene. I've said it before quite often, but it's like, oh, these randos.
Mm-hmm.
That's such an alienating language.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, but they're just like you. They're just people.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds so kind of heartfelt.
Yeah. Another part of this is, I mean, dating apps is exactly what they do. Like, they are localized. You can set the radius, you can set your profile.
But those are all just swiping from a couch.
Yeah, exactly. And I was listening to a podcast, like, it was kind of about dating apps. And they were talking about how, yes, dating apps improve the quality of marriages that drive from them. That could be extended to the quality of friendships, I imagine, that are made on the app. But because of all the choice and the gamification of socializing, it's like we would need to really temper both of those things. So it's not like a culture of, okay, I'm going to see everyone who went to this movie and message every single one of them. It's just like perhaps the person who sat next to you and you say, oh, we'll just connect on Radar or whatever. And I just think it would make communication a little easier, because perhaps giving out your number to a stranger is like a little bit questionable, or giving out your address. But if you're giving out your Radar, it still serves a purpose. Like, people probably would just give out their Instagram handle today or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think in the soul scene, there still needs to be that kind of intermediary thing, because we don't all live in small towns where you know everybody now. And we won't in the soul scene. Like, there'll still be cities and there'll still be huge numbers of people to kind of wade through and make decisions of like who you want to be friends with and who you want to make connections with. And that's kind of like something that historically hasn't super been the case. Like, it's always been, even when you live in a city, you're more likely to have a community of people that you really know.
Yeah.
And now it's just like two of us drop in the middle of like 1.4 million people, or however many people are here. And it's like you need some kind of intermediary way of making relationships.
Do you think need in Solacene?
I feel like,
because that's what I was wondering. Because I was like, every idea I came up with, I thought this is either seriously flawed. Like, the one that I'd just been kind of vaguely alluding to through the semester is some kind of wristwatch that beeps when you pass someone who matches specifications that you have set, or whose digital identity that they've uploaded is similar to yours. They're on Letterboxd. Maybe they even watch the same kind of movies as you. But the problem with that, as we said, is it creates a different reliance and a different crutch, which is now, if this never beeps, you won't speak to anybody, because you'll know, like the app has told you who is worthy, or who is worth your time, let's say, which is really, really a bad way of looking at people. So it might be good for creating friends, but not for fostering a wider sense of community, and not for like fixing the way that I think we view people. Like, that is kind of the dating app ideology, which dating apps have kind of ruined dating, I think. I don't date, but that's my outside perspective. So I think the Letterboxd Asteroid City Cinema case study is actually quite a pertinent one, because the goal in the Solacene is basically to change it so that you just talk to each other.
Yeah.
No? Like, that's how things were.
That is the goal in the Solacene, is just...
So I think, obviously, like, I'm quite a shy person.
Yeah.
And maybe socially awkward, as you say. But I really think this is... like, it's not the case that everyone else was talking in the cinema, is the point. Like, everyone was just talking to the person they came with.
Yeah.
Even though we were all excited to see the same movie. And afterwards... like, I remember listening to... there's a podcast called the Pure Cinema Podcast, which is kind of the patron podcast of Quentin Tarantino's New Beverly Cinema in Los Angeles, which plays a lot of cult old movies from the 70s and stuff like that. And they always talk about how the screenings are so fun, because afterwards, everybody together is spilling out onto the sidewalks discussing the movie.
Yeah. And
part of this is because there are regulars at the cinema. So it's like they see each other, they know each other, kind of like at a gym. Over time, you make friends like that. But I also think a bit of it is that it's an older demographic going to see these 70s kind of niche Hollywood movies. Whereas, let's say, at a Wes Anderson movie, like, this was quite a young demographic. And I feel like this might sound like an excuse, but I think it's harder for young people to just randomly start conversations in line. Like, I remember we were walking one time just on a trail in Nova Scotia, and there's this old guy he was walking in the other direction. He was like, hi, nice weather, or something like that.
Yeah.
And we were kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then we walked past, and I said, I feel like I couldn't do that to another, like, couple of teenagers, which we were at the time, because that would be weird. Yeah. So I do feel like old people have it easier, that's what I'm saying.
I think it's a very hard skill to foster.
Yeah,
And
today.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to get into the takeaways, and this is just a good segue, but this is something I've been really trying to do, is just like talk to random people, which is especially hard in a city where
French.
the first language is not your own, and
Yeah.
my French is, I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but I feel very unconfident when I
pas
speak in
mal.
it. So that's like an added layer, but even, I mean, most of the places I go to, English is kind of like people know English.
Mm.
So I'm trying to do this because I've heard stories of like people that I know in the city who are super extroverted and they just can talk to anyone and they'll like strike up a 2-hour conversation on the street. And I'm like, if they can do it in English, I can do it in small amounts.
I will say, just going back to the app, something that I do like about the way people kind of communicate digitally now, in gaming, it's like, oh, let's exchange friend codes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life, sometimes you see it, I think it's usually dating. Oh, there's that moment where at the end of the conversation, you switch phones.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like such an intimate gesture. Like,
Yeah.
I'll give you my phone, you give me yours, we'll put in the number. Because it's
Mhm.
not even asking like, oh, what's your number? I'll put it in. There's an
Yeah.
exchange there. There's something kind of nice about that. It's kind of like a handshake or a hug.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about maybe with these devices, let's say it's a wristwatch or something, there could be an actual contact
Mhm.
involved. Like maybe they have to touch wrists or like maybe they have to bump. Because I also
Yeah.
like the idea of I should have looked up the name before the episode, but you know those little cube toys that we used to have that had a stick figure in on like a digital thing?
Like Tamagotchis, but
They were like Tamagotchis, but they were cubes, and
Yeah.
you could stack them and put them beside each other, and the cubes would then interact and like go from cube to cube.
Yeah.
So I like that idea also.
yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, it is cute.
But I think it's doable to
Hopefully we
not need the app.
prompted some ideas for people.
Hopefully. Yeah. So speaking of movies, I'll do the final meme of the week. Boo. I tried to think of my favorite meme. And my favorite meme is from like 2009, 2011. And it's very niche, so I'm not going to do that. It's a
Okay.
picture of a veterinarian lifting a large tat. No one knows what that is. But you might not know this one because it's TikTok related. But it is quite popular. And it's a series of memes, like meme templates, from The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is a movie that not many people watched.
Yeah,
It was quite a bust.
we watched it. Though,
We
for
watched
some
it.
reason.
I liked it, admittedly.
Yeah, it was okay.
And I think it's grown on me over time. And so it's a super random thing to be like a very popular meme, but I'll describe it to those who don't know this template, and there's one of Pedro Pascal eating a grilled cheese sandwich. And there's another one of Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal driving in their car, and it's after they have decided that they need to facilitate a creative state of mind through the use of psychedelics, I think.
Yeah.
And so they're driving, and Pedro Pascal is the one driving the car under the influence, and he's just like having the time of his life. But then Nicolas Cage is looking like mortified, as you would if you were in the vehicle of someone who was compromised in the state that they were. But that is the meme template, and in the movie, the song Make Your Own Kind of Music does not play over that scene, but for some reason in the meme template on TikTok, that's the song that
I don't even know what that song is.
plays
but-
over talk. It's like, play your own kind of music. Anyway, so that song plays on top, and the template is usually one side, like one person, and it says me having only drank one coffee today, and then it's Pedro who's driving the car being like, and I'm going to get my
Yes.
second or whatever.
Okay.
And I don't know, it's that set of memes is probably my favorite, at least at the moment. They're funny to me, I guess, because I get them. And I feel like a lot of memes I don't get.
That's a hilariously convoluted explanation for the final meme of the week.
Yeah,
Very specific.
very specific, but I like it. And I was going through like the page of them on TikTok today because I was like, I wonder how people are using it, because I've only seen it like a few times. And a lot of them were like, when you realize that this movie was a bust and we need to make it popular or something, I'm like, but you don't know what the movie's about. You know this 2-second clip
Yeah.
and you think it's funny. But it's like, it is funny in the context. Like, it was a funny movie. But it's just like, you don't need to make it a hit, like, because you don't know what it's about. And I feel like that happens so often on social media. It's like, there'll be this clip that people don't get for the most part. And then there's like some people like, did you realize this is from like a movie? Or did you realize this is from a music video? Like, we need to make this a big thing. And it's like...
It's very... Yeah, that's an interesting phenomenon. I guess we didn't talk about that so much. Like the internet popularizing things that otherwise would have gone under the radar or would have been and gone. Like, think about everybody younger than us discovering Kate Bush is running up that hill through the Stranger Things thing last year or the year before.
Yeah.
Not sure. And it's like, that was a massive song. It would be like if someone was like, Uptown Funk, like, this is a crazy song. We need to make this big.
Yeah.
It's like, it was. It was giant.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny.
I feel like that was the phenomenon that I wanted to touch on and also just give a glimpse into my sense of humor.
Sure. Okay, the final part of the semester, this has been going on for 4 months. 4 months?
I think so.
18 episodes, 1 a week?
Yeah.
About 4 months. Wow. We're just going to do a little review because we thought 18 episodes is a long time, so we'll kind of give our takeaways. And also at the start of the internet semester, you said quite presciently, I think this is going to be rather transformative and even perhaps more personal than they usually are. And I would agree that has kind of been the case.
I agree.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So at the beginning when I made that bold statement, I mean, I was sort of like, wait, do I actually... Because I felt like my internet practices and my screen time were fine. Like, I didn't really have much of an issue with it. It's usually under 2 hours a day because I don't work online and stuff. And I was kind of, like, afraid after making that statement that I wouldn't be able to, like, actually be impacted, but I definitely have. And the first takeaway is that it's way harder to reduce my screen time than I thought it would be. Because we did the 2 weeks of, like, screen time reviews, and it was like 1.5 hours a week.
Yeah.
Or a day that I'd be, like, on social media and stuff. And I was like, and I find when I try and focus on something to reduce it, I increase it. Like
the elephant in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. So I found after trying to reduce it for that week, it went up. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I thought I had stronger will than that to, like, just reduce the screen time.
Yeah.
But then in the last week or two, I just tried the reverse psychology of just not thinking about it. And that has, in fact, worked.
Yeah, well, I really think this is, like, something that I've thought about. It's less about, this might sound like I'm trying to make a broad statement on, like, people's vices or something, but it's just personally with regards to the internet. It's less about deliberately not trying to watch it and more about deliberately trying to do other things.
Yeah, exactly.
And specifically things that are so opposite to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And usually this involves movement. I think the internet is kind of synonymous with a stillness and movement. And also movement begets movement. Like, it makes you want to be on the internet less. So it's kind of a domino effect. Mm-hmm. That's why starting the days is very important.
Yes.
Like the way you do your mornings. Very important.
Today, for the very first time in this 4-month period, I said, I'm going to start as soon as I wake up going for a walk. Because normally I walk quite a bit during the day, so it doesn't feel like I need to, like, add any movement.
Yeah.
But I think that forward ambulation, as some random podcaster or YouTuber once said that you watched, is actually useful. In that it's like, okay, you're setting the tone that you're going to go for a walk or a run or whatever it may be. And I chose not to listen to a podcast. That's a bold statement by me. Wow, I really want applause for that. But just to walk silently for like 45 minutes or whatever, I think that's very, very useful.
But it is. There's something, it's the rhythm, it's the momentum, you're moving towards something. And especially, I mean, you're in Montreal, you're usually going uphill. So
you're literally walking up a mountain.
Yeah, there's something to that. Regarding the semester itself, I think my main takeaway from the discussions we've had is that I actually feel overall more positive about the internet and specific digital things than I did at the start, or especially than I thought I would by the end.
Yeah.
And part of this is that I'm trying now to think and talk less in general terms and more specifically. So instead of saying, oh, that's bad. You know, like that's just awful. Like TikTok, for instance. I like pivoting it and thinking more, what would be the Solacene equivalent of this? You know, what itch is this scratching right now that in the Solacene could be done in a healthier way? And then when you look at everything like that, you start to see not just a ton of awful things, but the seeds of what could actually be really good around you.
Yeah, for sure. I really think at the beginning, had I been forced to make a decision, will there be internet in the Solacene? Yes or no?
That's such a...
I would have said no. Like that was the easier call, but there were definitely, a lot of things that I kind of saw the merits of. And really the biggest takeaway in that sense is that the internet is a tool for good. But often people say it's good for contacting your aunt who lives across the ocean. And it's like, but is that the issue that the internet is currently solving? And I don't think it is. Like, I think the internet is filling a social void and further alienating us. But therefore it means, okay, in the Solacene, the internet needs to be a genuine way of making community and life run smoother.
Yeah, I mean, I just see, now that I'm looking for it, I see everywhere how the internet is actually doing things for the good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's, like, currently I don't think it is a net good, but I see the things that it does do well. Like, I started reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, right? And I was just on the introduction, so I haven't actually really begun. But it was just talking about his life as leader in Rome. And it was saying, like, decisions took a long time. Obviously, just even his decrees to take effect or communication with people on the outskirts would take months. And it's like, the internet just solves that.
Yeah. I
mean, I still think there's merit to slow living, real communication, sending letters. I enjoy that. Like, I don't think everything should be texts and emails, but we shouldn't. So I say in the poem, like, treating a wonder as a wonder, we shouldn't take that for granted. Like, that's a crazy thing. The fact that you can communicate instantly with someone in China, that's amazing. It's a feat, if nothing else.
Another lesson that I learned about this slow living aspect of the internet and how to facilitate that in real life versus online is finding spaces that you can go to repeatedly and kind of giving yourself that challenge, because during the semester is when I went to the museum every day for a week, which then kind of spilled into about a month of going multiple times a week. So I was there for the most part close to every day for a month, which is something I'd never done in a space other than my home or workplace. And I think doing that, like choosing a space, it could be a park or a library or whatever, and kind of forcing yourself to go there unhindered, like without headphones in, without even work to do, and just like take in the physical space, it makes you realize the beauty of really simple things and also engage all five senses in a way that the internet doesn't do. I might suggest doing an episode on that book in between this semester and the next.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good topic. But that practice has been really transformative for me, and it's taken shape in like a lot of ways other than just literally going to the museum. And it's taken shape in, like daily walks or in our apartment. I think this is probably like one of the biggest changes in this semester is we've done these tiny little tweaks, I feel like, to make it a bit more engaging, I suppose. Like the sewing machine is permanently out. I got out the piano. The record player has been on every day. Got a radio. We got a thermometer. There's like these little things that make it a bit more like feel like a space that you can engage with and always have something to do. We started doing crossword puzzles.
Now that you mentioned it, I see that the thermometer has indeed fallen from the window again. My saliva wasn't enough to keep it. Yeah, crosswords. Crosswords is fun. Solacene recommends schwa. That was one of the crossword solutions for vowel sound.
Yeah.
5 letters, SCHWA. So props to whoever would have gotten that one, because we didn't. Actually, no, we did get it, but just by accident.
Yeah.
And we were like, schwa, that can't be right.
Yeah.
It was. Did you have a favorite episode that you can think of, or favorite discussion, or a favorite meme from the semester? I'll start so you have time to think. My favorite meme was Hide the Pain Harold. I thought that was really fun, and I just kept laughing at the fact that his name is Andreas.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, it seems cruel of me to laugh, but he just doesn't look like an Andreas to me.
Yeah.
I thought he was literally just like some American guy called Harold. but apparently he's Hungarian,
Hmm.
like you said. And my favorite episode, I liked the one that we were talking about ecosystem. I thought that was really fun. I also really liked when you talked about a study that found conversation deteriorates if there's a phone even in the room, let alone if somebody's on it. Because now I think about that all the time now.
Yeah, me too.
And just these different nudges that you can do in your environment. Like when we have dinner, usually like one or both of our laptops will be on the table, not open, but just on the table. So it's like we can just move those off.
Yeah.
And that's a different thing. Or putting your phone face down. I know a lot of people do that. Or like putting it away. Like I've been on my phone a lot less during this semester.
Hmm.
So yeah, just different things like that.
Yeah. My favorite episode is when we talked about the compulsion to share online and kind of how that's like you can't necessarily blame people, but it's also like you need to then work with people to change their mindsets when it comes to the internet because I mean you can't blame us, you can't blame like other people because it's been
Yeah, we're lab rats.
yeah, like it was just like a dump of opportunity on us and it's kind of like you're gonna watch YouTube because it's exciting and it's educational and it's bright and it's like we're humans.
Do you know the bone graphic novels?
Yes.
It's these little bone guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're made of bone. And the comic book or the graphic novel series is also called Bone, Bone. So there's Bone. And their seasons, I always remember this, like from the way their winter starts is just like they'll be talking one panel like winter's coming soon, and then the next panel the snow will just all fall on them to like chest height.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it feels like with technology.
Yeah. But it's also like that isn't also an excuse
No, of course. Yeah.
to just like waste your life looking at a screen. And I'm talking to myself because
we're grown-ups.
yeah, it's like you can just put it away and not be on social media. And it's like usually I feel like the biggest Solacene gripe with the internet is how we use social media. It's not necessarily Googling recipes or Googling how to get somewhere. Like that's...
Well, I think that's there also.
There's like an element of that, but it's like if you broke down how much time you spent doing that each day, which is like 10, 15 minutes,
True.
With how we use it to consume entertainment. Entertainment is probably the key word of like, we need to find alternative forms of entertainment or even just like more intentional uses of the internet of we're going to watch this movie this week.
That's what I was thinking because during the semester, it seems like a long time ago, but made the decision to stop watching bad movies.
Yeah.
Like to try and curate ones that I think or know that I will really enjoy. So it's like there's just a massive difference to that rather than just scrolling Tubi every night.
Yeah.
I shudder to the thought. And just watching Rock and Roll High School because it's like, well, this one has the doors.
Yeah.
Your favorite meme?
I don't know if I have a favorite
You never
meme.
remember them.
I never remember the memes.
I thought the meme of the week was a really fun segment, and I think for future semesters we can keep doing a themed thing. I like the organism; like that will definitely have a place.
Yeah.
But I just thought the meme, the way it kind of added to conversation, was a lot more natural than the way the organism does.
Yeah, for sure.
It was also just funny a lot of the time, and I didn't have to concern myself with drawing. I feel like drawing the organism is always a difficult thing.
Yeah.
In case you couldn't tell by my scribbles. A couple other just random thoughts I had. We rearranged our apartment.
Yes.
And I really think that this was another type of nudge where it's like, we're going to almost deliberately decenter the television, make it a little bit less easy to watch. And I feel like that helps a lot. Also, what this semester has made me realize, and just looking around, is that I don't think among adults we have very radical opinions of the internet. Like, I think most people listening to our episodes would agree or even be like, this is trite, obviously. So I think we are only maybe slightly ahead of the curve. That's kind of a thing we like to say, like slightly ahead of the curve. Not like, it's not like nobody talks about this kind of thing is what I'm saying. The problem is, and what this semester has really made me realize, is among children. Like that, I think, is going to be the kind of war zone, if you want, ideologically over the next like decades and currently, is tech companies targeting children because they don't know any better, and so they will just grow up with it. So this is why I think, there needs to be equally people striving to show their child real trees, not just Twitter trees.
Yeah. I mean, 2 days ago...
Real threads, not just Facebook threads or Instagram threads.
This reminds me of something that happened a couple days ago. I was walking down the street with a child, and there was like a electric billboard on the street. Like the bus stations have them on the ends.
Mm-hmm.
And he stopped and tried to like use it as a touch screen.
Yeah.
And then I just went, look at the sky! Look at the sky! It's blue!
That's what you said?
Yeah.
This makes you sound insane.
It definitely makes
You sound like you're having a meltdown. I can just imagine you.
It's because it's so often.
Like the kid just pokes the board and you just collapse to your knees. Start crying.
This is a dramatic reenactment, but I was just like, stop looking at the screen like it's a beautiful day.
But it's I don't think war is even that dramatic a language. Like when you think about how much expertise and money goes into making children addicted to different platforms.
Yeah.
It's like you need to treat it as seriously as the execs on Twitch and TikTok do.
Mm-hmm.
How much they try to make it addictive, you need to be like a force for good.
Yeah.
It's like the dark side in Star Wars.
It is.
Another small thought just for myself is that I have found it's probably a little bit more productive to try and curate internet use, let's say YouTube videos, rather than trying to quit cold turkey.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds a little bit weak-minded, but it's just like, it's what I found. I've been trying to reduce my YouTube usage for years, and I have done that gradually since I was probably 17 or 18. But especially now, like if you institute something hard, like I will only watch videos from my subscriptions,
Mm-hmm.
then it forces you to subscribe to things that you really find, one, genuinely entertaining or genuinely enriching.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it doesn't really matter what's recommended to you outside of that because you have a rule or something.
Yeah.
Or you say, I'm only going to watch 2 videos a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a big difference there. So
Yeah.
just trying to allow yourself to indulge in ways that aren't unhealthy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, I was thinking about earnestness, which is kind of like our generation has this plight of we will watch something ironically or we'll
Mhm.
read something ironically. Like I think that was always plaguing us with regards those Jubilee YouTube videos
Mhm.
where it's like, nah, this is dumb, but look how dumb this is. Let's watch it to see how dumb it is. But it's like the joke's on you because you just spent 20 minutes of your life watching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Curate, don't consume will be the motto of that.
Well, you got to think about how much content there is.
Yeah.
But is anybody content? I think those are the eternal words that we'll leave our listeners with.
Yeah. So see you all next week for a loosey-goosey episode. Can't wait to see you. Have a good week.